On the 3rd of May 2014, the inaugural Pride Cup was held at Yarra Glen. The Yarra Glen Football and Netball Club played against Yarra Junction. Ben TV was present on the day to witness Yarra Glen winning both the Netball and Football Pride Cup trophies. Tonight, Ben TV presents highlights from the official presentations which preceded the game, and then we speak with some of the locals who were present.
Today's event is a celebration of diversity and inclusion in sport. This is the world's first ever rainbow round for Aussie rules football, driven largely by two long-standing arch rivals, the Yarra Valley Mountain District Football League's Yarra Glen Football Club and the Yarra Junction Football Club. On behalf of the Yarra Glen Football Club, I would like to welcome Cindy McAllister MP, State Member for Seymour, and Councillor Fiona McAllister, Mayor of the Yarra Rangers Council. I'd also like to acknowledge the Australian Football League present here today and represented by the General Manager of Football Operations, Mark Evans, as well as the General Manager of Commercial Operations, Darren Birch. As members of the LGBTI community know all too well, it was once impossible to get the AFL to come to the table. Today, they are providing the table and the lunch and the drinks, and we are most grateful. I'd also like to acknowledge some special guests, David Ball and Helen Powell, Jason Ball's loving parents. Today, we are here to celebrate and launch the 2014 Pride Cup, an idea which was firstly developed between the coaches of Yarra Glen and Yarra Junction Football Clubs. You know, it's only 18 months ago that on the 9th of September 2012, a 24-year-old football player decided to tell the world that he was homosexual. In doing so, Jason Ball was the first openly gay man known to currently play our national game, Aussie rules. His courageous stance shattered over 135 years of complicit silence and discrimination perpetuated both on and off the sporting field in a football code defined by the macho image. With the support of his teammates here at Yarra Glen Football and Netball Club, Jason Ball's story aired on every television news bulletin that Sunday night and made headlines around the world. Over the weeks that followed, Jason gathered 29,000 signatures to his online petition, insisting that the AFL acknowledge the entrenched homophobia that festered within its ranks and at all levels. By highlighting homophobia in sport, Jason shone a light on the isolation felt by thousands of LGBTI people every day and the tremendous mental and physical health impact that such discrimination has on the lives of these people. Jason successfully lobbied the AFL to broadcast anti-homophobia TV commercials during two preliminary final games held at ANZ Stadium and the MCG. This marked the first active step taken by the AFL towards creating cultural change against homophobia. In December of 2012, Australia's National Depression and Anxiety Initiative, Beyond Blue, recognised Jason's advocacy for inclusion and named him an ambassador for their cause. For generations, people who made a stand against homophobia were labelled fags. Jason managed to transform this perception by enrolling some of the AFL's biggest stars in an online social media campaign for International Day Against Homophobia in 2013. Now, taking a stand against homophobia makes you a good bloke. In just 18 months, Jason Ball has managed to achieve what decades of political and community lobbying could not. And with further support from the AFL, the Yarra Rangers Council and the Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission, we are gathered here today for this momentous occasion. The General Manager of Football Operations for the AFL, Mr. Mark Evans.
When you play football with someone, a teammate, all you want is that person contributes as much as they can towards the team's success, and you can have some fun and you can really try hard to achieve whatever it is that you want to do with that team. That's what inclusion and diversity is about. People can come from all parts of the globe, have all religions, all skin types, all forms of sexuality, but when you come together in a community, none of those things genuinely matter when you judge the value of a person. Jason Ball has worked with the AFL, with our education team, and has helped us produce a video clip that goes for about 4 minutes. We've had 3 or 4 of these this year. We had Simon Hogan, and his story was about depression. We had Peter Searle, and her story was about gender bias. We had Joel Wilkinson, and his story was about racial vilification. And we had Jason's story. With these 4 bits of vision, our education team has gone into every club, every playing group, and has shown these stories to the first to third year players within the AFL. So they play the 4-minute vision and stop and discuss it. And it was an open-ended discussion. It wasn't led by us. We weren't asking questions. The first question is, what did you think about that story? And then it would get into a bit more deeper discussion. What do you think the AFL's position should be about that story? And I'd have to say, one of the proudest things that we've done, this is one of the best education pieces that we've done. First to third year players, 18, 19, 20-year-old players. These are the things that they've said. Yeah, you know what? If it was one of my teammates that was gay and had then come out and told us he was gay, that's probably going to go down okay for us. It's not going to be that much of an issue for us. Internally, we think we can cope with that. We actually don't really mind, as long as we're contributing towards our team's success, and he's trying his hardest to make sure that he improves and the team improves. We think we're okay with that. There's no problem. They did say, yeah, we also recognise the difficulties with a gay player coming out in the AFL, and that those difficulties are most likely to come from over the fence and the general community rather than from the AFL, from the club or from the teammates. And they would understand the difficulty there would be with a flag bearer of having to wear those extra pressures when all they really are asking for is acceptance to be the best footballer they can be. And they would be worried about whether that external pressure would affect their performance as a footballer. What they want to be is an outstanding footballer, an outstanding contributor to the club. So we recognise the difficulties, but I'd have to say it was one of the most amazing turnarounds I think I could say I've seen in my time in football, is when you sit there with a playing group and you can share someone's story and say, here's a real person, there's their story, and they say, we accept that. We have no issue with that.
It's now my great pleasure to welcome the Mayor of the Yarra Ranges Council, Councillor Fiona McAllister, and they're responsible for the Rainbow Arches at the 50-metre line.
Today, and all events and conversations about homophobia, they're not about tolerance. They're not about tolerance at all. In fact, they're about intolerance. They're about us all saying that we won't tolerate homophobia, discrimination, racism. Today is about respect and equality, and that's why we are all here meeting and taking a moment to reflect on that and how important it is in our communities. It's about the culture that we have in our sporting clubs, in our workplaces, our schools, and across our communities, where we are all who we are, regardless of sexuality, race, disability, and we're respected for that. We're not tolerated, but we're equal and we're respected for that. In many ways, we've come a long way. Today is proof of that. But in many ways, there is still a very long way to go. As a mayor, and I guess with my other hat on as a psychologist, working with change in organisations, I know well that awareness is simply the first step. Acceptance and action must follow. And we can't simply assume that by raising awareness that will follow naturally. I also know there needs to be a sense of urgency. An event such as this, stands taken by people like Jason, programs such as those being led by the AFL, all create the awareness, but more importantly, the sense of urgency, and reinforce the fact that we will not tolerate discrimination on any level anymore. Today is even more timely, with events playing out in the national arena with regards to discrimination based on race and the conversations or the debate about the Race Discrimination Act. A reminder how important it is for all of us as individuals and communities to make our voices heard, to have events like this, to take a stand and to say we will not tolerate discrimination either against sexuality, race or on any level. Yarra Ranges Council is very proud to be supporting today, extremely proud. We've recently appointed an inclusion officer who will be working solely with sporting groups across the Shire, support particularly around issues such as homophobia, and we also for many years have been working supporting young people dealing with their emerging sexuality and also the associated issues in terms of mental health.
How did you and the senior team become involved in the concept of Pride Cup?
Oh, look, over pre-season, Sam Hill's my assistant and myself, we had a number of chats and we decided to throw a bit of weight behind Jason's initiative from last year and just thought the weighted numbers would help the cause. So, we spoke to Jason and obviously spoke to the committee at the football club and everybody was supportive and the way it happened and the way it went. So, it was good.
What has been part of the first Pride Cup meant to the Yarra Glen seniors football team?
Oh, look, part of history. It was a great day. We had great numbers. We won on the field, which was important. And I think there was a bit of media exposure and it looks like we've made a bit of an impression. So I think everyone's very happy to be a part of it. It's great.
Were your hopes and expectations of the Cup realised?
Oh, that's a good question. I think time will tell. I think my gut feeling is yes. It was a successful day and, just some of the feedback that we've received from not just in the Yarra Valley but the wider football circles and the sporting circles around Australia and even overseas, it's been quite overwhelming. And I think now that some of the AFL clubs are looking at maybe following suit, I think our goals may be realised.
As a coach, how would you like to see the Pride Cup evolve?
Oh, look, I think it should be an annual event, and I'd be disappointed if it wasn't. So, I think we've obviously had the inaugural one just recently, and if we can do it again next year and get better numbers and more support and more exposure, I think that's how I'd like to see it evolve, and maybe at AFL level as well, it'd be fantastic.
How can clubs like yours ensure an appropriate level of conduct and acceptance is maintained by its players and supporters?
Well, hopefully what we've put out there as a football netball club in hosting the first Pride Cup, we start back and we can probably go back to our code of conduct, which all our footballers and netballers, our members all sign off on. As part of our code of conduct, we bring in discriminations of all type, whether it be sexual or racial or religious discrimination. None of these accepted and everybody is welcome here at Yarra Glen. So I think if people could jump on our website, have a look at our code of conduct and the things we've put into place, I think they'll find they could take it to their club quite easily. We've also put out there a club confidant, which is a support network or a support person for anybody within the club or within the club community can go to talk about any issues they have, whether it might be drugs related or alcohol related or violence or whatever. It's a confidant where somebody can go and talk to this person knowing they're talking in trust and be directed to the right area.
What plans do the Yarra Glen Football and Netball Club have to make next year's Pride Cup bigger and brighter?
Well, hopefully next year, 2015, we will be definitely holding another Pride Cup. And within the Pride Cup round, I believe there is very strong whispers around the AFL of a couple of AFL clubs taking on board St Kilda and possibly Essendon or Carlton. And none of it's been confirmed yet, but that'd be a great lead up to local suburban football and country football to be all taken on as a Pride round. Or even if it's just one club in each competition, whether we go back to the Eastern Football League or we go over to the Essendon Football League or we go to the Yarra Rangers Junior Football League, if we can just get each club from one of those competitions holding a Pride Cup, that'll be amazing. I think if another club wanted to promote acceptance, whether it's a club at our level or an AFL club here at Yarra Glen, and what we've learnt a lot through this process over this past 2 years. It hasn't been a 6 weeks process leading up saying bang, we'll have a proud run. It's been 2 years of hard work and a lot of preparation going into it. The AFL's been super getting on board, but they can contact us through our emails, they can give us a call here at the club and we can let them know what we did to get our Pride round off the ground to get it going. I know just 3 weeks ago, I was in town at a soft opening of a restaurant up at South Bank, and it was a friend of mine introduced me. That's Finn Erickson, president of Yarra Glen. Straight away, Pride Cup. Knew that we had the Pride Cup. This is all the goodwill we're getting out of it. And don't get me wrong, we're not doing it here for our own self-gratitude or to make Yarra Glen something it's not. The main message we're putting out there is it's okay to come out and play sport for everybody. I personally didn't break through them, but having talks with Jason and with David, I believe they were hugely supportive from day one, to the point where the AFL, Mark Evans, they got on board. They hosted a luncheon here on our Pride Cup day, which was, we had 80 people in there for a sit-down lunch, and we had people from all different groups from here. We had Globe in here, we had the Victorian Discrimination Commission in here, we had the Pride March members in here. There was groups from everywhere who came, who were very important groups to help us get the message out there, because as a small country club, we can't get the message out to 15,000, 20,000 Australians. But, we can start, and everything has to start from somewhere. And, hopefully when we go back in history books in 2050 and people are talking, what was this Pride round about? Why is it? It's just a normal part of life. It had to start somewhere, and it started back here at Yarra Glen because, one, we have a footballer who had the courage to come out and say, hey, boys, I'm gay, but I love playing football. And these are the boys he's played football with for 10 years. He played his junior football here. To maybe have the backlash of it takes a lot of courage to come out to say that to your mates or to your peers and to your broader community. And Jason's done that, and held himself in a remarkable way.
The past 2 years have seen many changes in the sport which you love, with your son Jason proudly at the helm of most of them. For this first Pride Cup, what were your expectations and were they met?
Well, my expectations were that the community would get involved. We get a lot of support from both the gay community and the straight community that come along to the game and show that diversity and inclusion is an important thing. And it was fantastic. We had a terrific roll-up. The mood and manner of the luncheon that we had beforehand that the AFL sponsored was fantastic. A lot of positive things were coming out of it. And we really think we made a big impression on the AFL in particular, which was one of the target audiences for the Pride Cup.
What changes would you like to see next?
Well, we would like to see an organisation like the AFL actually get out there and say something positive in terms of running a Pride Cup game or a round or similar. They've certainly done a lot with the Say No to Homophobia campaign, and my son Jason sort of started that way back in 2012, and that's been really positive. So, I think things are going well. We'd just like to see the momentum continue. I would like to see them do more. As I said, I think a Pride game or a Pride round would be a great idea. I think the work that the AFL have done in terms of racial discrimination has been incredibly powerful. They've got a very strong brand, and if they get behind a message, people tend to listen, and it'd be really good if they could do that.
Are you planning bigger and better celebrations for next year's Pride?
Well, we're planning bigger ones. We hope they come off. It will be pretty hard to top this year's event. Being the first, obviously, there's a lot of interest. To get more interest in the second event is going to be a challenge, but we had a lot of support from the Yarra Rangers Council, and in fact they have a diversity and inclusions manager, and she's already contacted us and wants to start now and preparing for next year, so we're looking forward to that.
Jason Ball, welcome to Beck TV.
Thanks for having me.
How did the idea of Pride Cup come into being?
I think one of the best things about the Pride Cup is that it actually wasn't my idea. It came from the coach, it came from the club here at Yarra Glen. I think they felt a sense of ownership over me and my story and wanted to do something to be supportive of the, I guess, the advocacy that I've been doing in that space. So, I had a conversation where my coach said that they wanted to do a Pride Cup and, would that be something that I'd be interested in being involved in? And of course it was. Would it be something I'd be interested in helping organise? That was a bit more, but, I came around and I thought it was a really great opportunity, and I guess I felt a lot of pride that Yarra Glen were willing to do that. I think my hopes and expectations were definitely exceeded. I couldn't have imagined it had gone as well as it did. The feeling arriving at the ground and seeing the 50-metre line painted as a rainbow was just amazing. I grew up playing junior football here, as a kid, and it was a place where, I was always hiding my sexuality. And so to come here on the day of the Pride Cup and see the gay pride flag, the international symbol of gay pride there on the football ground, that was just, unprecedented and a real milestone. But beyond that, the fact that we had the AFL get involved and support the event by holding a pre-match function, which brought together leaders from various sporting, human rights and mental health and LGBT organisations to have conversations about homophobia in sport and making sport a more inclusive and welcoming place. That was really great as well. And, it wasn't just the AFL there. We had a presence from Netball Australia and from the Victorian Equal Opportunities and Human Rights Commission. So I think it was just, a fantastic example of the two very different communities coming together.
How would you like to see the Pride Cup evolve?
Well, I think on the day we saw Mark Evans, who's the General Manager of Football Operations at the AFL, say that the AFL would be prepared to support a Pride Cup at a national level. So I think that is the next step. I think that it's one thing for, Yarra Glen to do something like that, but the reach that the AFL has is huge. And sport has traditionally been a place that is so, unwelcoming to the gay and lesbian community, whether it's through the homophobic language used by people in that environment or people who are gay who are playing who feel like they have to stay in the closet in that environment, or they stop playing at one point or another because they can't handle that level of homophobia. I think initiatives like the Pride Cup, where you're actually celebrating diversity and welcoming and being inclusive of people who are LGBTI, is the next step, and to have that at a national level, I think, is going to be huge.
What changes would you like to see before the next Pride?
I think, I'm really hopeful that the Pride Cup will be an annual event that Yarra Glen can really take ownership of. I'd like to see perhaps more teams in our local league get involved in that initiative, and perhaps even other sporting codes, whether it's basketball or soccer or rugby, take the example of the Pride Cup and apply it in their own sporting codes. In terms of why, we don't see professional sports people coming out while they're playing, I would hope that we can see that in the future. I think a lot of the reason why we don't is because it hasn't really been done to a great extent, and there's a lot of risk and unknown territory there. I think if anything, my story has been able to show at a much smaller scale, at a grassroots level, that it can be done, and contrary to all of the fears that I had about how I would be received, I was welcomed with a lot of support. And I think that, what I would say to people in that situation is just to not be afraid, and that you would be surprised how supportive people will be if you give them the chance. I think, the AFL have come a long way in the last few years on the issue of homophobia. I was very pleased to be able to lend my story as a case study that they used as part of education and training for their own players around vilification and discrimination, and the fact that they've included sexuality alongside race, religion and gender in their policies and procedures is a really good step. I think that also around International Day Against Homophobia, we saw the AFL Players Association, a number of AFL players add their voice to that cause, and that was pretty significant. I think, straight allies are really the key to success in this area, and to empower them, I think, is what we need to be putting a lot of our focus into.